There are moments in golf when the scorecard stops matching, the trophies disappear into the background, and the story becomes deeply personal. Phil Mickelson, one of the most recognizable names in the sport, is now facing one of the most difficult chapters of his life. And this time, the spotlight has turned toward his family. After weeks of controversy, questions, and intense public attention, a statement from Mickelson's representatives has revealed where his wife, Amy, stands during this painful period. And what makes this story so emotional is that Amy's message is not about defending a golf career, winning another major, or answering every accusation. Instead, it is about family, loyalty, recovery, and a private struggle that has suddenly become part of a very public story. As golf fans try to understand what is happening behind the scenes, one thing has become impossible to ignore. This is no longer simply a story about Phil Mickelson, the golfer. It is a story about Phil Mickelson, the husband, the father, and the man trying to navigate an extraordinarily difficult moment. The golf world has known Phil Mickelson for decades as a player capable of producing some of the most dramatic moments in professional golf. From his 3 Masters victories to his unforgettable 2021 PGA Championship triumph, Mickelson built a legacy that few players can match. But in 2026, the conversation around him has become dramatically different. Instead of focusing on birdies, majors, and spectacular shots, golf fans have been hearing questions about his absence, his family, his personal circumstances, and allegations that have placed the veteran golfer under intense scrutiny. Mickelson has missed major events this year while dealing with what has been described as a private family health matter. And then came a statement that immediately attracted attention because of who it represented. On June 29th, Mickelson's spokeswoman said that Amy Mickelson continues to support her husband with what was described as extraordinary grace and unwavering love. The statement also emphasized that the couple have shared a 35-year relationship and that Amy has supported Phil and their family through difficult periods. Most importantly, the statement said that recovery is not a straight line and that Phil's priority right now is becoming the husband, father, and man his family deserves. That message landed differently for many golf fans because Amy is not simply a familiar name connected to Phil Mickelson. She has been beside him through some of the most important chapters of his career and some of the most difficult moments in their family's life. Their relationship has been tested by enormous pressure before, including Amy's battle with breast cancer in 2009. Phil stepped away from golf at that time to be with his wife during her treatment, and the emotional impact of that period became one of the most memorable chapters of his career. That history makes the current situation especially difficult to watch. Fans who remember Phil celebrating major victories with Amy now see a completely different picture. The golfer who once appeared almost invincible on the biggest stages is now dealing with circumstances that have forced him to step away from competition and concentrate on his family. And while the public naturally wants answers, the statement from his representatives made it clear that some parts of this situation remain private. That distinction is important. There has been intense reporting and discussion surrounding allegations of misconduct involving Mickelson, and his representatives have disputed some claims while acknowledging that other matters involve mistakes he has previously recognized. The statement did not attempt to provide the public with every detail of the family's situation. Instead, it pushed back against what Mickelson's side described as an incomplete and misleading narrative, while emphasizing that his family's private matters should remain private. And this is where the story becomes much more complicated than a simple headline. There are allegations, there are responses, and there are personal circumstances that the public simply does not know everything about. Responsible coverage means keeping those things separate. An allegation is not automatically a proven fact, and a public statement from a representative does not answer every question surrounding a controversial story. What we do know is that Mickelson's camp has publicly acknowledged that he is dealing with a difficult family situation, while Amy has continued to stand beside him. For many fans, that loyalty is perhaps the most emotional part of the entire story. Golf is often presented as an individual sport, but behind every major champion is a network of people who experience the pressure, victories, disappointments, injuries, criticism, and personal sacrifices alongside them. Amy has been part of Phil's story for decades. She was there during his rise, during his major championship victories, during the difficult periods, and during the family health crisis that once forced him away from golf. Now, once again, she is reportedly standing beside him while he faces a period of extraordinary public pressure. The timing could hardly be more dramatic. Mickelson's relationship with professional golf has already become one of the most controversial stories of the modern era. His decision to leave the PGA Tour for LIV Golf in 2022 changed the sport permanently. He became one of the most recognizable figures in the breakaway league, but the move also created a deep divide among players, reminds us that public figures can be complicated human beings. Phil Mickelson has had extraordinary highs and difficult lows. He has been celebrated as a major champion and criticized for decisions that changed professional golf. He has experienced moments of personal triumph and periods of intense scrutiny. Now, his family is once again at the center of a story that extends far beyond the golf course. And perhaps the most heartbreaking part is that the person standing beside him is someone who has already experienced the emotional cost of having a family member's life placed under a microscope. Amy knows what it means to live with uncertainty. She knows what it means to have cameras watching. She knows what it means for a private family struggle to become a public conversation. And yet, according to the statement released through Phil's representative, she continues to support him with unwavering love. That does not tell us what the future holds. We do not know exactly when Phil will return to competitive golf. We do not know how the ongoing controversy will ultimately affect his reputation. We do not know whether the PGA Tour and LIV Golf relationship will eventually change. And we certainly do not know every detail of the family matter that has kept him away from competition. But we do know that the golf world is watching. And we also know that behind every headline is a family living through the consequences. Phil Mickelson's legacy will eventually be judged through his championships, his records, his influence on the sport, and the decisions he made throughout his career. But right now, his most important role may not be golfer at all. It may be husband. It may be father. It may simply be a person trying to make difficult decisions away from the spotlight. And for Amy, standing beside him may be more important than anything happening on a golf course. So as the golf world continues debating Phil Mickelson, LIV Golf, the PGA Tour, and the allegations surrounding the veteran star, perhaps the most important thing to remember is that not every part of the story belongs to the public. Some chapters are meant to remain private. Some battles cannot be measured by statistics. And some victories have nothing to do with winning a tournament. For now, Amy's message is one of support, patience, and family. Phil's focus appears to be on the people closest to him, and the rest of the golf world is left waiting to see what happens next. One thing is certain. The next chapter of Phil Mickelson's story will be watched more closely than ever, and whether he returns to the course soon or remains away for longer, his biggest challenge right now is not beating another golfer. It is navigating life beyond the fairways. That is why this story has affected so many golf fans. Because behind the 6 major championships, behind the LIV Golf controversy, behind the headlines, and behind the millions of eyes following every development, there is a family dealing with a deeply personal moment. And sometimes that is the part of the story that matters most.